Welcome to our channel. Today, we're back with a brand new topic just for you. Before we start the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Enjoy the show.
Ever get that feeling your trusty old tech tool is starting to feel a bit, clunky?
Yeah, like trying to build a spaceship with Lego Duplo.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, because today we're plunging into the story of a programming language that arrived on the scene, precisely to address those frustrations, Swift.
Right. We're diving deep into Swift, and our source today, an introduction to Swift programming language from Code Talk, it makes it clear it's become, a really pivotal technology.
Especially if you're in the Apple universe.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And this isn't just another language vying for attention. Our mission today is to cut through the noise and really understand the core DNA of Swift.
Why Apple bet so big on it.
Exactly. And how its influence is now stretching beyond your iPhone and MacBook. Think of this as your shortcut, really, to understanding why Swift matters.
So maybe let's set the stage. What were developers dealing with before Swift entered the picture?
Right. Well, before 2014, if you were building apps for Apple, Code Talk reminds us that Objective-C was pretty much the king.
The reigning champion, yeah.
And while it was powerful, it definitely carried some historical weight, a more intricate syntax, kind of inherited from its C origins.
A bit verbose sometimes.
You could say that. And here's where the story gets really compelling. Apple saw this, and at their big worldwide developers conference, WWDC, in 2014, bam, they unveiled Swift.
And it wasn't just like a fresh coat of paint, was it?
Not at all.
The Code Talk piece really emphasizes it was designed from the ground up. A modern, safer, and significantly faster alternative.
Yeah, this was about more than just a cleaner look. It was about fundamentally improving how software was built on Apple platforms.
And our source mentions the key people behind it.
Right. Our source highlights the key minds, Chris Lattner and, the incredible team at Apple. And they weren't just, throwing things at the wall. They had some very specific aims.
Like what?
Well, a major one was safety, really aiming to squash those notorious null pointer exceptions.
Ugh, those things cause so many unexpected crashes.
Exactly. Performance was also paramount. They wanted it to be neck and neck with super fast languages like C++ LEC.
High bar.
For sure. And crucially, they wanted to make it more approachable. A cleaner, more intuitive syntax, all while embracing modern programming concepts like optionals and functional programming techniques.
Those goals really hit on some of the biggest headaches developers faced back then.
Totally.
That emphasis on safety, for example, it's like going from, patching holes in a dam to building a much stronger dam in the first place.
Yeah, preventing problems before they even happen. Good analogy. Okay, so we know its origin story and the why. But what exactly is Swift under the hood? How do we, define it?
Well, Code Talk describes Swift as a compiled, statically typed programming language.
Okay, let's break that down a bit. Compiled.
Right, so compiled essentially means the code gets translated into the computer's own language before it runs, which is a big contributor to its speed. Think of it like translating an entire book before you start reading it. Makes for a smoother experience.
Gotcha. And statically typed.
That means the type of data each variable holds, like is it a number, is it text, that's checked before the program runs.
So it catches errors early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It acts like a meticulous proofreader, catching potential errors way before they cause trouble at runtime.
That makes sense. And it's not just floating out there on its own, right? It's deeply woven into Apple's whole world.
Oh, absolutely. Their developer tools like Xcode and their core framework for building those slick user interfaces, Cocoa Touch. It's tightly integrated.
And Code Talk mentions something called protocol-oriented programming. That sounds important for Swift.
Yeah, it's particularly interesting. Swift really champions this approach. You define these blueprints of functionality, they call them protocols,
Okay.
and then different types of data can adopt these blueprints. It's kind of like having standardized parts that can be used in many different machines.
Making the whole system more adaptable, reusable.
Exactly. More flexible, more reusable code. It's a powerful concept.
And you really can't discuss Swift without mentioning optionals. That seems fundamental.
Oh, definitely. This was a core design choice aimed squarely at enhancing safety.
How so?
Well, optionals are Swift's, elegant way of dealing with the possibility that a variable might not actually have a value. It might be empty or nil.
Right, instead of just crashing.
Precisely. Instead of the program suddenly crashing when it expects a value but finds nothing, like reaching for a tool that isn't there. Swift forces you, the developer, to explicitly consider that nothing scenario.
And handle it safely.
Yes. You have to unwrap it carefully. It makes you wonder just how many unexpected errors this seemingly simple idea has prevented in countless apps.
Has to be a game changer. Code Talk also points out that Swift is quite versatile. It supports both object-oriented programming, which was the main style in Objective-C, and these more modern functional programming approaches.
Right, so developers get a real toolkit of strategies. They aren't locked into just one way of thinking.
That flexibility must be a major advantage.
Huge. It allows developers to choose the best approach for the specific problem they're trying to solve.
Okay, so we've established what Swift is. Now let's drill down to the core question for you, the listener. Why should anyone actually choose Swift? What are the, concrete benefits?
Well, Code Talk lays this out pretty clearly. The first pillar is safety first.
We touched on this with optionals and static typing.
Exactly. Swift is engineered to catch a whole range of potential bugs before your app even gets close to launching. It's like having a built-in quality control system.
Yeah, flagging issues early in the production line.
Right.
And that's huge. Fewer bugs mean fewer crashes, which means a much smoother, more reliable experience for you using the apps. Always a plus.
Definitely.
What's the next key advantage?
Performance, speed. Because Swift code is compiled directly into the machine's native language, it boasts impressive speed and efficiency.
Code Talk mentioned it aims for C++ levels.
Yeah, close to C++ fast, which is renowned for its speed. And this is critical for anything demanding, like games or apps handling large amounts of data.
Makes sense.
Faster apps generally mean happier users. Nobody enjoys an app that feels sluggish or unresponsive.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, Code Talk also highlights modern syntax and features. They describe the way you write Swift code as concise and expressive.
Yeah, less boilerplate, cleaner to read.
What are some of these modern features that make a real difference in practice without getting too deep in the weeds?
Okay, well, think of features like closures. These are like self-contained blocks of code you can pass around and use.
Like little function packages.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Very flexible. Then you have things like tuples, which let you bundle multiple related pieces of information together easily.
Handy.
And pattern matching, a really powerful and streamlined way to check values against different possibilities. It can make complex conditional logic much cleaner.
So while these might sound a bit technical,
Right, the practical outcome is often less code overall, and that code is clearer to read and easier to maintain down the line, which benefits everyone.
right, so it's not just about looking nicer. It's genuinely more efficient to build and update. Now, another key advantage Code Talk points to is interoperability with Objective-C. Why was that such a smart move?
Oh, this was absolutely vital. Crucial, really, for Swift's adoption.
Because of all the existing code?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Given the massive amount of existing software written in Objective-C, particularly in the Apple ecosystem, Swift needed to play nicely with it.
Otherwise, it's a non-starter for many projects.
Precisely. This interoperability allowed developers to gradually integrate Swift into their existing Objective-C projects. You didn't face the daunting task of rewriting everything from scratch all at once.
So it was like a bridge.
A bridge, exactly. A smooth bridge that made the transition much more manageable from the established to the innovative.
That's a great way to put it. And finally, a big one that speaks to its future: open source and cross-platform.
Yes, this was a really pivotal moment for Swift. Back in 2015, Apple made Swift open source.
Meaning the code is public.
Yeah, its underlying source code is publicly available for anyone to see, use, contribute to. And this has been a major catalyst for its growth beyond Apple's own platform.
So it's not just for Macs and iPhones anymore.
Not exclusively. Support has been extending to operating systems like Linux, even Windows.
Wow.
It really makes you think about Apple's long-term vision for Swift, doesn't it? That they saw its potential to thrive in a much broader ecosystem.
Definitely signals a belief in its wider applicability. Okay, so we understand the why. Now, where are we actually seeing Swift being used in the real world? What does Code Talk say?
Well, Code Talk emphasizes its primary position, its home turf, you might say, which is developing apps for iOS and macOS.
So the apps on your iPhone, your Mac?
There's a very, very good chance a significant portion of that software is powered by Swift these days. But, like we just touched on, its footprint is expanding.
Right. They also mention its growing role in server-side development. That feels like a newer frontier for Swift.
It is, relatively speaking. Frameworks like Vape or Katura 2 are enabling developers to use Swift on the back end, the server side of applications.
So the same language front and back?
Potentially, yes. You could have Swift powering both what you see on your screen, the front end, and the underlying systems that make it all work, the back end. That consistency can be really appealing.
Interesting. And what about building apps that aren't just for Apple devices, cross-platform apps?
Code Talk touches on this. Technologies like SwiftUI, which is Apple's modern framework for designing user interfaces across all their platforms.
Right, it's supposed to be easier.
Generally, yeah, more declarative. And the Swift Package Manager, which helps manage code libraries and dependencies across different projects. While it's still evolving, the aim is to streamline building apps that can run on various operating systems, ideally sharing a lot of the code.
So work in progress, but moving that way.
Definitely. And we're also seeing increasing interest sort of bubbling up in leveraging Swift for embedded systems and even the Internet of Things, IoT devices.
Really?
Yep.
Like small devices?
Yeah, hinting at some really exciting possibilities down the line. Maybe controlling your smart home with Swift someday.
Huh. So while its roots are firmly in the Apple world, its branches are definitely reaching further out. Now let's be balanced. No technology is perfect, right? What are some of the hurdles or potential downsides of using Swift that Code Talk points out?
Good point. The first one they mention is Swift's rapid evolution.
Because it's still relatively young.
Exactly. It's still under active development, and it goes through significant updates pretty much every year, often announced at WWDC.
Which sounds good. Improvement is good.
It is, in the long run. But it can sometimes lead to compatibility issues between different versions of the language. Developers need to keep up, and sometimes code needs tweaking to work with the latest version.
So source-breaking changes can happen.
They can, though Apple tries to manage this. Think of it as the landscape constantly being reshaped. You need to stay updated.
Right. So keeping pace is essential, but it can also mean occasional adjustments. What else should people be aware of?
Limited cross-platform maturity is another factor Code Talk brings up.
Even though it is expanding.
Right. While Swift does run on other platforms like Linux, the supporting ecosystem, the tools, the libraries, the community focus isn't as established or mature as it is within the Apple environment.
Compared to languages built for cross-platform from day one.
Exactly. Compared to more mature cross-platform languages. It's growing, for sure, but it's still on that journey outside of Apple's core platforms.
That makes sense, given its origins. And the final challenge Code Talk highlights is related. A smaller talent pool outside the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah, this falls logically, because Swift has been so heavily associated with Apple development for years.
That's where most of the experienced developers are.
Naturally, the majority of experienced Swift developers are focused in that Apple sphere. So companies looking to adopt Swift for, say, server-side projects or other non-Apple applications might find the market for experienced talent a bit tighter compared to finding, say, Java or Python developers for those roles.
All important points for anyone considering a deep dive into Swift for their projects. But looking forward now, what does the future landscape look like for Swift according to our source? Is the momentum still there?
Oh, absolutely. Code Talk underscores Apple's continued and, frankly, significant investment in Swift. It's clearly strategic for them.
You see it every year at WWDC.
Exactly. Annual updates, new features, consistently enhancing the language and its related frameworks. It's not standing still.
And those newer frameworks, like SwiftUI you mentioned, they seem like a big push.
They really are. SwiftUI offers a more intuitive, declarative way to build user interfaces. It can significantly speed up development and potentially make it more accessible, especially for UI work.
And the server-side push.
That momentum is definitely building, expanding its reach into new domains beyond client-side apps. So ultimately, Code Talk concludes that Swift's inherent strengths, its focus on safety, its performance, its expressive nature, position it as a highly versatile and future-proof language.
Seems like a strong outlook. Okay, so bringing it all together then, who should really be thinking about learning Swift right now? Who is it for?
Well, Code Talk paints a pretty clear picture here. First off, if you're a developer interested in building applications for iOS, macOS, watchOS, or tvOS.
Apple's platforms.
Right. Swift isn't just a good option. It's essentially the primary language you need to know for new development there.
Okay, that's clear. Who else?
It's also a fantastic choice for programmers, maybe already experienced in other languages, who value modern features, safety guarantees, and the performance of compiled languages, regardless of their initial platform focus.
So if you like those characteristics in a language,
Swift should be on your radar. Also, anyone looking to explore the Apple ecosystem more deeply, or perhaps venture into server-side development with a contemporary fast language, should definitely give Swift serious consideration.
what about beginners? Is it too much?
Actually, Code Talk suggests even those new to programming might find Swift appealing. Its syntax is designed to be relatively readable, more so than Objective-C was, certainly. And there's a strong, supportive, and growing community around it, which is huge for learners.
Good point. Community support is key. So just to recap our exploration into Swift, we've traced its origins back to Apple wanting something better than Objective-C.
Build on those core principles: safety, performance.
We looked at its key features like optionals and protocol-oriented programming.
And we've seen its dominance within the Apple ecosystem, but also its increasing adoption elsewhere.
Server-side, potential cross-platform use.
Alongside acknowledging some of the challenges, like its rapid evolution and the growing pains of cross-platform maturity.
Right. And when we step back and look at the bigger picture, Swift's journey, it really mirrors these broader trends in programming, doesn't it?
It really does. That growing emphasis on building more reliable software, more efficient software, and maybe making the developer's life a bit easier too.
Swift has definitely been a significant driver in pushing those boundaries forward.
No doubt.
So as you, our listener, ponder the ever-changing world of technology and maybe your own learning path, perhaps consider where a language like Swift, with its blend of safety, speed, and expressiveness, might fit into the future.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to watch. And maybe, like our source hinted, our next deep dive could indeed delve into some of those related areas, perhaps functional programming concepts.
Could be interesting. Until then, keep your optionals unwrapped and your code clean.